She was just standing there. The true story of the ghost at Lydia's bridge. I've never been a believer in ghosts. I still wouldn't call myself one, really. But something happened a few years ago that I can't explain. And I've tried. It was late fall. Cold, foggy. The kind of night where your headlights barely cut through the darkness. I was working the closing shift at a hardware store out near High Point, North Carolina. Finished around midnight. Instead of taking the highway home, I decided to cut through the back roads. Less traffic, less time. Big mistake. I was maybe 15 minutes into the drive when I noticed something on the side of the road. It was just past an old, crumbling stone bridge, the kind you never think about unless you're on it. The air around it felt colder, heavier. I slowed down as my headlights lit up the fog. That's when I saw her. She was standing completely still. A teenage girl, maybe 17 or 18. Thin, pale, wearing a white dress, soaked at the bottom like she'd been walking through wet grass or mud. Her arms were limp at her sides. Her hair was long, black, and clinging to her cheeks. She didn't wave, didn't move, just stared. At first, I thought she'd been in an accident. I pulled over slowly, rolled the passenger window down. "Are you all right?" I asked. She didn't say anything, just looked at me, not scared, not sad, just empty. Then softly, "Can you take me home?" Now, I know that's the part in the story where the narrator usually says, "I should have driven away." And they're right, I should have. But something about her made me feel responsible. So I unlocked the doors. She got in the back without a word. The car was dead silent. No breathing, no rustling. Just the faint sound of tires on wet road. She gave me an address. It was close to where I lived. A house ID passed dozens of times before but never paid attention to. I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was sitting straight up, hands folded neatly in her lap, still dripping water onto the seat. I tried to start a conversation, something casual. Cold night out. She didn't respond, didn't even blink. The longer the ride went on, the more I felt like something was off. She hadn't shivered, hadn't adjusted her posture, hadn't made a single sound. And it wasn't just the silence, it was the smell. Wet earth, stale air, like old, rotting leaves, the kind you only find at the bottom of a lake. Finally, I turned onto her street. The house was at the end of a cul-de-sac, small, well-kept. A single porch light was glowing. I stopped the car. "We're here," I said, turning around, but the back seat was empty. I didn't hear the door open. Didn't feel her leave. She was just gone. I sat there, frozen. I couldn't explain it. I knew she'd been there. The seat was wet. There were drops of water still glistening in the moonlight. I got out of the car and walked up to the house. An older woman answered the door, wrapped in a shawl. She looked at me, and before I could even say a word, she said, "You saw her, didn't you?" I stared at her, stunned. "What are you talking about?" She sighed, stepped out onto the porch and looked at the road. "That's my daughter, Lydia." She told me the story. Decades ago, Lydia had gone to a dance out in town. Her boyfriend was driving her home. Too fast on the curves, the road slick from rain. They hit the stone bridge. He died instantly. Lydia crawled from the wreckage. She didn't make it far. She bled out on the roadside, in the cold, alone. The woman told me that every year since, around the anniversary of her death, people claimed to see her, standing by the road, asking to go home. Sometimes they see her in the car. Sometimes they hear her voice. Some even say she speaks to them, not with words, but with grief. And it's always the same thing. A ride that ends in an empty seat. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about her. That blank stare, the soaked dress, the cold silence. A few days later, I drove past that bridge again. I wasn't planning to, but something made me slow down. There, nailed to a wooden post at the side of the road, was a small sign, faded from weather and time. It said, "In memory of Lydia, still waiting to get home."